how many degrees? 70. What are we doing here? Shabbat Shalom. We start on page 2 of the Siddur supplement, the little paperback supplement. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. We must build this world with chesed, with loving kindness. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Yadadai, dai, 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 dai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Yadadai, dai, 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 dai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Yadadai. Die, die, da, da, die, die. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Yada, die, 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 da, da, die, die. I will build this world from love. Yada, die, 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 da, da, die, die. And you must build this world from love. Yada, die, 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 da, da, die, die. And if we build this world from love, yada, die, 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 da, da, die, die, then God will build this world from love. Yada, die, 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 da, da, die, die. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Yada, die, 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 da, da, die, die. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Yada, die, 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 da, da, die, die. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Yada, die, 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 da, da, die, die. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Yada, die, 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 da, da, die, die. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome, everyone. It's so good to see that a nice crowd has come out, both in person and on YouTube, on this cold, cold night of winter wonderland. What was that, Stan? Standing room only. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a very, very special Shabbat, as we all know. It's the first Parsha of the book of Shemot, the book of Exodus, which makes it a very special Shabbat. We start perhaps the central story of the Torah, of becoming enslaved in Egypt and gaining our freedom, of God freeing us from that slavery in Egypt, and starting the wanderings in the wilderness toward the promised land. Of course, we're not going to talk very much more about that tonight because we've got other things to talk about. The American Jewish experience, which we will get to later on this night of December 24th. So let's get things underway with lighting the Shabbat candles. Would anyone like to light the Shabbat candles? Would you like to light Shabbat candles, Stan and Rita? You did yours already. Would you like to light them, Carol? Can you light a match? It's not as easy as it sounds at TCS. And I will help you with the blessing after the lighting. Please join me in the bracha, everyone, as we take in that holy light of Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Thank you, Carol. We now turn to page 13 in the Siddur and sing together Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharei, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We now continue on page 20 of the Siddur, Or Zarua Latzadik, at the bottom of the page on the Hebrew side. Oh, wait a second. That's the wrong page. I'm sorry. That's not the page. Let me find the correct page. It is page 17. Page 17, 2 lines from the bottom where there's a little box. Or Zarua Latzadik, light is stored for the righteous, referring, interestingly, to where light was created first in the creation story at the beginning of the book of Genesis, and then later the sun was created. And so this was deemed to be a very special holy light that was then reserved for the righteous, according to this psalm, and to be used in the time to come. Joy for the honorable. Lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 yai, lai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, 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 Zarua, Zarua Latadi, Ur Yishrei Simcha. Zarua Latadi, Ur Yishrei Simcha. Or Zarua Latadi, Simcha, or Zarua Latadi, Hu Yishrei Simcha, or Zarua Latadi, Hu Yishrei Simcha, or Zarua Latadi, Hu Yishrei Simcha. Hayrai or Zarua Latadi, Hu Yishrei Simcha. Or Zarua Latadi, Hu Yishrei Simcha. Zarua Latadi, Hu Yishrei Simcha. Or 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 Zarua Latadi. Now we continue with Lecha Dodi, page 21. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat Nekatela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Ishmianu el amiyuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'li tehila, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat v'kavila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekavila. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי היא מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת לקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך, קומי אורי, אורי אורי, שיר דברי. כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת לקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי כלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת לקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. Please remain standing if you're able and turn to page 27. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ועמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחיי חון וביומי חון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמה ויאמרו אמן. and still remain standing if you're able as we move to the Siddur supplement on page 5 for Am I Awake? And Baruch Hu. Yadidai-dai-dai, 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 yadidai-dai-dai. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Yadidai-dai-dai, 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 yadidai-dai-dai. You may be seated. Please turn to page 29 for Ahavat Olam as we approach the Shema now, in which we will talk about our obligation to love God. We're reminded of God's love for us first, which is expressed through wisdom, guidance, a path through life, through the Torah and mitzvot. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Tah, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu, v'shokbeinu uvkumeinu, nasiach b'chukecha. ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני words of Shema, page 30. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta b'ham b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha uv'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot ben einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha. We turn to page 31. Lamatan Tizkaru, 6 lines down, 3 words in. Lamatan Tizkaru, va'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'item kedoshim le'elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, Lihiyot lachem Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem Emet. We now switch to the supplement, page 7, for Nothing Can Compare. Nothing can compare, nothing can compare, nothing can compare, nothing can compare. Standing on the other side of the sea of reeds, I'm beginning to believe we really can be free. Walking on the ocean floor, like walking on the air. Nothing can compare with this. Nothing can compare. Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha mocha netar b'kodesh nora tehilot Osef b'eleh nora tehilot Osef b'eleh Malchutecha ra'u v'necha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe zeh Eli anu ve'amru Adonai yimlok le'olam va'ed. Nothing can compare. 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 We go back to the Siddur to page 34 for Vishamru. About the covenant, the love story, the contract between God and the people Israel, the Jewish people, expressed through the sign of that covenant, Shabbat. V'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Dai beini uvein bnei Yisrael oti leolam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. We now rise and turn to 35b. For the Amidah, known to the rabbis as tefillah, prayer. This is the central portion of our prayers. Adonai safatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai safatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher Chastei Avot, U'mevi Goel Livnei V'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava. Melech Ozer Ufoked Umoshiach Umagen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avraham Ufoked Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayei Metim Atarav Lehoshia Mashiv HaRuach Umorid HaGashem Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed Mechayei metim berachamim rabim. So make noflim v'rofei cholim umatir asurim umekayem emunato lishenei afar רוח, ונאמנת להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. And we now continue privately, either with the prayers in your own heart and mind, or with the words in the Siddur, pages 36 through 38. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי אדוני It's now the time in our service where we give thought and prayer to those in our community and in our lives who need our prayers of healing, who may be sick, may be injured of body or of mind, and who will benefit from our thoughts, prayers, and actions of help. In the TCS community, we're thinking of Judy Alpert, friend of Ricky Wall, Janice Mussman Albertini, friend of Tracy Paveo, Phyllis Burke, wife of Norberg, Arthur Campbell, friend of Craig Barger, Tony Casella, father of Franny Spivak, Jonathan Gardner, grandson of Rona Slotnick, Marilyn Hoffman, mother of Alyssa Cohen, Rose Jones, friend of Rona Slotnick, Melvin Lippman, Nancy Meyer, sister-in-law of Ross and Joni Meyer, Valerie Rossi, friend of Franny Spivak, Stephen Skolnick, uncle of Alicia Dancy, Iris Sherman, daughter-in-law of Judy Romaine, Steve Walensky, cousin of Joni Meyer, Devorah Bat Yaakova Shirley, from David Rothberg, Yonina Bat David HaKohen Visara. Would anyone like to add a name to the list?
I am the Moshe and Rick. How would you do it?
Lisa Cohen, Brian Kilo, Marie Robbins, and Phyllis Dillon. John Beal, Emily Beal.
Let us send them all our prayers of healing. You can find the words on the inside back cover of the Siddur, the Shabbat prayer. Vishabera Avotenu Mikor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Visheperach imotenu nekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We turn to page 148 for a blessing for our country. Prayer for our country. Our God and God of our ancestors, we ask your blessings for our country, for its government, for its leaders and advisors, and for all who exercise just and rightful authority. Teach them insights from your Torah, that they may administer all affairs of state fairly, that peace and security, happiness and prosperity, justice and freedom may forever abide in our midst. Creator of all flesh, bless all the inhabitants of our country with your spirit. May citizens of all races and creeds forge a common bond in true harmony, to banish hatred and bigotry, and to safeguard the ideals and free institutions that are the pride and glory of our country. May this land under your providence be an influence for good throughout the world, uniting all people in peace and freedom, helping them to fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore. And let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom. As promised, we're going to talk tonight about Jews and Christmas, specifically about Jews and the custom of Chinese food on Christmas, and Jews with Christmas trees. So, first of all, has anybody had Chinese food yet this Christmas Eve? All right, tomorrow? Some people have the Erev custom, and some people have the Day of custom. All right. So I'm just wondering, would anyone want to share like why you're having Chinese food tomorrow? All right. So, yes, they're open. But not all of them, actually. But you know, I'm not sure about in this area, but like, my experience has been that it used to be that Chinese restaurants were the only restaurants open on Christmas. But now there are there are other kinds of restaurants that are open too. But still, there seems to be something special about it. Even at Justice Elena Kagan's 2010 Supreme Court confirmation hearing, she was asked about her whereabouts during Christmas Day 2009 at a bombing. And she said, like all Jews, I was probably at a Chinese restaurant. I asked a friend about it, who doesn't eat out all that often, and he said that it felt good, just felt right to have Chinese food on Christmas. Even though that year he didn't particularly like what he had for dinner, and actually that's true for me. I ordered out tonight, and I experienced a menu where the prices were doubled, and so I ordered differently from what I usually like, and it didn't really like my order, but still something felt like it's what I was supposed to do. So, you know, what there is that's Jewish about eating Chinese food on Christmas bears a little investigation, I think. It seems to be a secular ritual that has developed. It's a tradition that any Jew can embrace. It's an affirmation of Jewish identity without needing any religion. Where did this come from? Historians tell us that the roots were in New York City, on the Lower East Side. The two immigrant communities were had the bulk of their immigrants from the same era, early 20th century. And they lived next to each other. They were both on the Lower East Side. They were in close proximity. And they were both not Christian. The Italian immigrants, the Irish immigrants, they were Christians. They theoretically fit in better to American society at the time than the Jews and the Chinese, because we didn't share in the national religion like the others. A lot of this is speculation, not fact, but I think it's good speculation that Jews felt comfortable in Chinese restaurants because there wasn't any Christmas decoration or iconography or Christmas spirit there that might make them uncomfortable. Some people also say that Chinese food was seen as safe trafe. Trafe is the word for unkosher food. Because you never see meat and dairy mixed together in Chinese food. And you could just not order the pork or the shrimp if you so choose. And the pork, maybe not as obvious as you could make believe you're eating the egg roll and you don't know what's in it, right? It's not like eating a ham sandwich or a rib. There might have also been a little bit of a racist element in it too. I don't know if any of you have any experience with this, but I have experience of Jewish relatives, friends, even myself, younger, making fun of Chinese people for the way they spoke English. And this is commemorated, actually, in a passage from Philip Roth, the novelist Philip Roth's Portnoy's Complaint, where he basically takes everything offensive that Jews do and everything questionable that Jews do and puts it through the roof, exaggerating it. He says, why do we like Chinese food? Because the Chinese are the only people in the world who it seems that the Jews are not afraid of. The way they speak English makes my father sound like Lord Chesterfield. To them, we are not Jews, but white, and maybe even Anglo-Saxon. No wonder they can't intimidate us. To them, we're just some big-nosed variety of wasp. So here we have an example of, I hesitate to quote that because it is racist to me. It's not racist out of the blue. I think let's face it, in the Jewish community, there is racism now, and there was more racism then, perhaps. But here we have an example of like one immigrant group that is somewhat despised in American society at the time, maybe not despised anymore. But it's very natural for one despised group to look down on another group, to feel better about themselves. I think that's what's happening in that passage, and maybe some of that happened in real life as well. So anyway, on top of all this, it tastes very good. I remember as a kid growing up in Paterson, New Jersey, my brother actually, he texted me, he found online a menu from the 1960s from the Chinese restaurant that we grew up going to. And like this was like, we moved away from Paterson when I was 5. So like my memories of this were from very young. It's like the only thing that I remember is like the spare rib and the wonton soup, and so somehow we got hold of this thing. It tasted really good. It was a treat. And it was the only thing open on Christmas Day. It was the only thing to do. We're not going to talk about the thing that after the Chinese food today because I know that we all want to go home eventually, so I'm going to skip the movie. We're skipping the movie for this talk. So it seems that now we have more assimilation of the Jewish community into American society. We have more interfaith marriage. We have less separatism. I think we have less anti-Semitism, although now I'm not so sure anymore. And we have a large proportion of American Jews who fit in so well in American society, much better than my parents' and grandparents' generation. And it seems that this custom has been seized on as a secular ritual, a way to affirm that in spite of all of our sameness, on Christmas, specifically that day when most of America is gathering together to celebrate Christmas, we're different. We're not Christian. And even if we're not religious, we celebrate in this way. That said, I was talking with Annie about this. She has no experience of Chinese food on Christmas. So I guess it's not a universal custom. If you don't have this experience, don't feel bad. Maybe you had a Christmas tree instead. She did. So has anyone had a Christmas tree in a Jewish home growing up here? No shame in it. Yes, good. You're not alone. You know who else did? Theodore Herzl. Louis Brandeis, the first Jewish Supreme Court justice. Who else? This might not be as familiar name to you, but it is to me. Gershon Shalom, who was one of the foremost Jewish scholars of Jewish mysticism. He basically founded the academic field of study of Jewish mysticism, a major Jewish scholar. He published, among many other books, the groundbreaking Major Trends in Jewish Mysticism. So let's take him for an example. Gershon Shalom grew up in Berlin, and his family celebrated Christmas with roast goose or hare. They had a decorated Christmas tree, which his mother bought at the market by St. Peter's Church. And they had a big distribution of gifts for servants, relatives, and friends. One of their aunts, his aunt played piano and played Silent Night for the servants. Why did they do this? They were very, very identified as Jewish. They did not see it as Christian to do these things. They saw this as being a good German. Similarly, Louis Brandeis, our first Jewish Supreme Court justice, Theodore Herzl, the founder of Zionism, also a German Jew. In 1895, the chief rabbi of Vienna visited Herzl at his home, and they sat in front of the Christmas tree together. Because this was not seen as a Christian thing, it was seen as a national holiday. So this is part of the history of Christmas, in a way, more than Jews and Christmas trees. Because in the late 19th century, Christmas came to be seen as not, as more than a religious holiday, as a secular holiday as well, as a national holiday in any nation that has a majority Christian population. So a lot of non-religious aspects of Christmas came to dominate. The Christmas tree, there's nothing religious about the Christmas tree. There's nothing, it's not mentioned in the New Testament. It's not mentioned in the writings of the Christian founders. Same thing. I was taking a walk the other night and admiring all the pretty Christmas lights in my neighborhood in Brookline. Just thinking, that's very pretty. There's nothing religious about this at all. It's just pretty. So American Jews did the same thing. They saw Christmas as a national holiday and wanted to partake in it. They saw it as pretty. They didn't see, where's Jesus in the tree? I don't see Jesus in the tree. So why not have it? And in the earlier generations, there was an intense desire of Jews to fit into American culture and European culture as well. Here's an example from 1878, a description of the Sinai Congregation of Chicago celebration of Hanukkah. The fine temple was crowded with grown people and children. The Hanukkah tree was brilliantly illuminated with wax candles. The services commenced with the singing of the first stanza of the Hanukkah hymn by the Sabbath school children. Today, there's been an interesting movement in Christmas trees in Jewish homes, that there has been a decline. That, and scholars explain this decline being fueled by two things. One being Jews don't feel as intense a desire to fit in because they already do fit in. And so there's less need to adopt a Christian symbol to fit in. The other is the rise of Hanukkah. Hanukkah ain't what it used to be either. Hanukkah used to be a minor holiday. Now it's king of Jewish holidays almost. You know, there used to be no such thing as a Hanukkah gift. There was only Hanukkah geld, which was like a quarter or a nickel. Where did Hanukkah gifts come from? Christmas gifts. Did anybody hear this when you were a kid? I heard this all the time. Hanukkah's better than Christmas. You get 8 gifts, 8 gifts for 8 days, not 1. Right? They never heard of the 12 days of Christmas somehow. But Hanukkah grew in importance to compete with Christmas, so that the Jews' children would not feel left out. The other thing is the rise of Israel. Israel is a Hanukkah miracle, basically. Israel, the founders of Israel, identified intensely with the Maccabees, throwing off the Greeks. They were fighters, just like the Maccabees were fighters. And so that contributed to the rise of Hanukkah. So the rise of Hanukkah coincided with the fall of the Christmas tree among Jewish families. Because now we had a menorah, and now that we already were acculturated and assimilated, we wanted to separate rather than fit in. Also contributing that the rabbis and the Christian clergy did not like it. Neither one liked it. The Christian clergy didn't like it because it took the Christianity out of Christmas. And the rabbis, of course, didn't like it because they wanted to not have anything Christian in their Jewish families' homes. However, there's been a bit of a comeback of the Christmas tree, fueled by two things as well. First, interfaith marriages. That a Christmas tree is a great way for an interfaith family to blend. Even if they're doing mostly Jewish activities in their home, and they're mainly a Jewish home, what's the harm in having a little Christmas tree? There's nothing so Christian about it. It's one example of a compromise needed to make such families work. The other thing is Russian Jewish emigres. That they had a very strong custom of the Christmas tree, which was outlawed by the Soviet Union. Christianity and Christmas was banned, but they held onto the tree. They were able to hold onto the tree as a national symbol of the new year, and the Russian Jewish immigrants brought that here. So, we have in our question about what Jews do on Christmas a perfect example of the key features of Jewish life in the modern world. How do we balance the forces of, on the one hand, wanting to fit in, and the other hand, of wanting to express our particular distinctive identity? And both of these things play into that. My Shabbat blessing to all of us as we navigate these waters is to hold on to your Jewish identity and fit in as much as you want. Personally, I'll stick with my favorite Jewish Christmas expression, Chinese food. Shabbat Shalom. We continue our service in the Siddur on page 51 with Aleinu. Please rise. Aleinu leshabeach la'adon hakol, la'tet gedula le'yotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishbechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'goralenu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, shehu noteh shamayim ve'yosed haaretz, u'moshav yekaro b'shamayim imah, u'shchinatu zo, ve'govhei meromim, u'Eloheinu einod, emet malkeinu efes ulato, kakatuv b'torato, v'yadata hayom b'hashivota elevavecha, ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim, b'shamayim mimal, ve'aretz mitachat einod, v'ne'emar, v'ya Adonai, lemelech al kol haaretz, v'yom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. You may be seated. It is now time in our service to think of those whom we love who are no longer walking this earth. We recall the loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have taken into our hearts with our own. Our hearts go out to Bruce Ring and his family. Bruce's mother, Hilda Miriam Ring, died this past week. Tonight, we especially remember Tina Macrina, aunt of Dwayne Thomas, for whom we are still in Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning. And our congregational family remembers with special affection our loved ones whose yahrzeit will occur this coming week. Alice Flint, mother of Suzanne Payne. Daniel Darling, father of Helen Finkelstein. Carol Goldstein, mother of Marjorie Goldstein Frater. Sidney Meyer, father of Ross Meyer. Samuel Offengan, grandfather of Joan Tanzer. If you're remembering someone this evening, we invite you to say that person's name aloud now. Zichronam livracha. May the memory of all our dear ones be a blessing. If you are saying Kaddish in someone's memory tonight, we ask you to rise now. In loving support of the mourners, we rise as a congregation. In gratitude to God for the gift of the lives of their loved ones, those who are in mourning and those remembering someone, say Kaddish on page 52. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala u'v'yizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rava min shemaya v'chayim. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. You may be seated. I'd like to invite up to give some announcements our board representative Ruth Albert.
Shabbat Shalom.
Remain masked. Remain masked.
Remain mask? Okay.
That's our new policy.
Okay. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to CCS, where we value innovative education, building community, honoring individuality, drawing meaning from Judaism, and upholding our social responsibility. All of our programming, including the ones I will mention today, reflect these values. No Torah study with the rabbi for the next 2 Saturdays, December 25th and January 1st. That is not one of our values, that we don't have the study. Okay. On January 8th, Torah study will resume, meeting on Zoom as usual. Saturday, Havdalah service will be at 6 p.m. tomorrow night on Zoom. Reminder, information and links to all activities are included in your weekly emails on Mondays, as well as special notices. Please remember to return your name badges to the drawers in the foyer before you leave the temple. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. And if you celebrate it, Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Ruthie. Please join me in singing Adon Olam on page 54. Adon Olam, Asher Malach B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra Le'ed Nasa, V'chefto Kol, Azai Melech, Shemo Nikra, Azai Melech, Shemo Nikra, Ve'acharei Kitlo Takol Levado, Yimloch Nora, Ve'hu Haya, Ve'hu Over, Ve'hu Yeh, Ve'tifara, Ve'hu Yeh, Ve'tifara, Ve'hu Echad, Ve'ein Sheni Leham Shilo, Lehachmira, Beli Reishi, Beli Tachlit, Velo Ha'oz, Ve'hamizrach, Velo Ha'oz, Ve'hamizrach, Ve'hu Heli, Ve'chai Goali, Ve'tzur Chevli, Ve'etzara, Ve'hu Nisi, Humanos Li, B'na Ishan ve'a'ira ve'hibruchi keviyachi Adonai li ve'lo ira Adonai li ve'lo ira. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu Zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit Ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh Zecher litziat Mitzrayim Kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta Mikol ha'amim Shabbat kodshecha v'yahava uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-shabbat. Amen. Shabbat shalom.
I got it.
I don't think I had, did I, huh? I actually got nice new match with my son-in-law.
Oh,
Because I'm the one that stuck so often.
all right, that's true.
They seem to work on the people.
Thank you, guys.
That was very good.
Yes, sir.
Very good, yeah, really good.
Yes, that was nice.
We were just talking
What?
about.
Oh, thank you very much.
No, the loss and the blessing. 103.
Oh, my goodness.
Wits about.
Wow. Oh, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Should all be so Mike?
I was gonna say, I grew up kosher.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's no Chinese food, that's why I got. Like my mother, because we were so poor, used to buy a kosher turkey just to warm up the house and make it on Christmas Day. Not because we celebrate Christmas, oh no. It was just to warm up the house.
What about the house?
You run the oven, it would warm up the house.
Very interesting.
And of course, my sister's very interfaith marriage, so they would have they would each make a turkey.
Who else besides your
My
mother?
sister lived upstairs.
Oh, they would also make a turkey to warm up the house.
She's in an interfaith marriage, so it would be like, could be turkey.
They were complaining that they couldn't, I didn't know what to do. They couldn't hear you.
Who couldn't?
It's on YouTube. They couldn't, they were
Oh,
having trouble hearing it.
The YouTube folks couldn't hear the speaking?
Couldn't hear it, they were having trouble. I was able to figure out when you were making a speech how to shut them up, because they were getting very loud. Or you were, I don't know if you heard it.
Oh.
Stan and I heard it.
They were talking on Zoom?
Yeah.
Normally we turn Zoom off. I forgot about that. I think we turned Zoom off.
They-
But